Hello and welcome to this week's This is MediaCity. I'm Stephen Chapman and today I'm joined by Jason Spencer, the Business Development Director of ITV, based here at MediaCity. Now ITV were one of the first companies to come to this place and they've got a massive history here in the Northwest. We'll be talking all about that and so much more. Welcome to This is MediaCity, Jason. You've literally walked about 2 minutes down from ITV to join us. It's great to have you on. Now, you're ITV's Business Development Director.
Yeah.
What on earth does that mean at ITV?
Very good question. Well, I'm based just, as you say, just around the corner in Orange Tower. And as Business Development Director, I'm running all of our commercial teams across the UK outside London using MediaCity as our base. And we are basically making money from advertising. From advertisers, those either starting for the first time or scaling up in a number of different ways. Spot advertising between the programs, sponsorship, product placement, making shows with us, the growing area of streaming, you name it. And I've got teams all around the country who do that, basically.
We're going to get more onto that in a bit. What I didn't tell you earlier on is we got these, and you may be aware of these from previous podcasts, but this is to get a little bit to know about you, because we will find a bit about what you do. But I kind of want to get deep into your mind.
Gosh.
So pick a card, any card, and hopefully we'll find something that'll put you on the spot.
Gosh. What drives me? Okay, what drives me? I think I treat fear as a tailwind rather than a headwind. So that fear of failure, that fear of getting things wrong, but also I love putting myself out in things I've not done before, situations, spaces, ideas, whatever, just to see how far I can go. And that's kind of professionally. I think personally, I love new stuff. Anyone who knows me knows that I go to weird, wonderful places on holiday all the time. I've got a reputation for it. So new stuff is probably the thing that drives me overall.
I have to ask you then, where was the weirdest place you've been on holiday?
Weirdest? Well, I wouldn't consider it as weird, but the stuff that I go to that people are like, what are you going there for? Last couple of years, and these are amazing places, Uzbekistan, Belize, Colombia, and then later this year going to Moldova and an area called Transnistria, which is disputed territory on its border.
Oh wow, okay. Okay, I haven't seen those on the travel agents.
No, not yet. In the coming years they will be, but yeah, new stuff is what drives me.
Okay, that sounds like a travel documentary for ITV coming up.
Maybe, if someone will fund it.
The last one.
Right, okay, let's go to this one.
If it's where do you go on holiday? That could
no, it's not. The best, so let's bring it right back here. The best thing about MediaCity, well, ITV's been based here in MediaCity for 12 years. And although every single business here is separate and has its entrance, its security and whatever, I've always found that it's a great place to sort of break down those barriers and work with different businesses around here, even if they feel like potential competitors. We've done stuff with the BBC over time, even if it feels like you haven't necessarily got something in common because you're relative size. So we work with some amazing people like the team at Gas on some of the ads that we make. So I just think actually exploring that and doing more and more of that, the more people you know, the more connections you make.
Staying with that collaboration thing, because I mean, the interesting thing about ITV and also ITV Studios, I think, is that people might not realise that a lot of the programmes that you make is not just on ITV. Yeah. You've got quite a few that have gone on the BBC too and beyond, haven't you?
Yes. Well, if you think about ITV as a whole, and then I'll talk about ITV in the North actually. So ITV as a whole, half our business is the studio side. So that is making shows, not just in the UK, but internationally. A third of those now for streamers. Yeah. So we are making many shows that will run all around the world.
I'd better point out is Key Street Productions.
Key Street Productions, yes.
And they had a massive Netflix hit.
Yeah, they have. But equally, you know, we've made things like Rivals for Disney as well, which has been a massive hit there too. And we're making shows that travel all around the world. Some of that's about the IP that travels and then they adapt the show like The Voice. But also it'll be around dramas that can travel too. So I think it's a really interesting business insofar as that's quite separate to the bit I work in commercial, but we're all part of this one big entity. And as you mentioned, the likes of Key Street Productions, really successful. We've got the likes of Lifted and Multi-Story as well, who operate out of our offices here, and obviously from the studios side, we've also got Coronation Street over the water too, which interestingly is on the Trafford side rather than the Salford side.
Yeah. I still want to know what that argument was over there.
Well, I don't know. It's the water that gets in the way.
But it is quite. Let me try and phrase this correctly. ITV, for those of us that know back, you've got very, very, very strong roots in the Northwest back from the Granada days. You're not shouting as wildly and loudly as some of your other broadcasters about what you have in the Northwest. Is that fair to say? I'm only saying that because obviously we've had them move Channel 4 to Leeds, so that is a big thing to move the head office to Leeds. Obviously we know about the BBC coming up here as well, but you're just kind of quietly toddling along.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. I mean, from the inside, you wouldn't necessarily feel that, right? But actually, that counts for nothing because the external perception. I think the interesting thing with ITV, so ITV this year is 70 years old, right? That's 70 years of TV advertising. That's almost 70 years of being based here in the North, and we've got obviously bases around the UK. So I don't know if that's a byproduct of just the fact we've always been here, right? Channel 4 moving to Leeds is a relatively recent thing. The BBC moving a big base here to Salford is a relatively recent thing. We've been here, as I say, in Media City about 12 years or so, and maybe we should shout more. There's loads of things we're doing. I don't think we're shrinking violets, but yeah, maybe that is a call to arms. I'll go back and see what we can do to shout more.
But I suppose because you're so embedded here, we kind of feel like, oh well, it's ITV, they're Manchester. Almost, or they're Liverpool.
I mean, well, here it's Granada. If you go over to Yorkshire, it's Callendar. We've got these regional identities, and I think what's really interesting, because given that we're 70 years old this year, it's an opportunity to both look back but also look forward. And I think when you look back into the annals of ITV here in Granada, one of the key people in those formative years was Sidney Bernstein. And doing a bit of research around that, because we're thinking about, well, how can we tell this story in an interesting way? So one of his big inspirations was P.T. Barnum, and many people will know Barnum for his big travelling shows, but also you'll know for The Greatest Showman, the film. And Sidney Bernstein had a photo of Barnum, a picture of Barnum in all of his offices, right? And the reason he did that was to remind his staff when they were making shows that for every serious show they made, it also needed to entertain. It needed to combine spectacle and substance. And I think that coming together, that sort of juxtaposition is really key. And I think if you think about what we've done here in Granada over the years, from amazing World in Action documentaries through to Coronation Street, through to even things like the first UK TV appearance of the Beatles was here in Granada. Granada's been at the centre of things for many, many years.
I loved going in the archive and seeing them cycling around Studio 6, I think it was, outside there. Because that was the other exciting thing about what they did with Granada, was they wanted it to feel bigger than it was. So the studios were 2, 4, 6, 8, weren't they? They made it feel like it was a bigger thing.
And yet, when you go around that area now, St John's Quarter, and you look what they've done now with Versa Studios and that whole area, I think that redevelopment, that sort of almost rebirth of that area is absolutely incredible.
It's exciting times. Now, the other thing about, we kind of look that you're saying the 70 years. Now, there are lots of people, and I'm not sure if I'm one of them, are talking about the death of linear. And we have to talk about that because obviously you are ITV. I know ITVX is going great guns as well. Are people talking? This is the reason why I think it's what my opinion is. So you tell me if I'm right or wrong. At the moment, Netflix and all the streamers seem to be wanting to go live. So are they learning from you and you're learning from them? And there's somewhere in between we're going to end up the future of television.
I think it's really interesting now because I'm going to give you an interesting example of where we're going with this. Because if you look at TV as a whole, right? Let's use ITV as a microcosm of that. Around about 3/4 of our viewing now remains linear broadcast. That's scheduled TV.
So there are people who are sitting on the couch
watching at the time something scheduled. 1/4 of it is streamed through ITVX.
Only 1/4.
Of course, that's growing at great guns. Since we launched ITVX, it's grown at a faster rate than Netflix, Disney, Apple, Amazon Prime in terms of viewing levels. But it differs program by program. So when we launch a drama now, we will launch it on a Sunday night. And if it's, say, 4 episodes, it will go Sunday, Monday, Sunday, Monday. Now, actually, when we take something like a drama, we will then drop the entire series on that Sunday night. And we know that by the time you get to the second Sunday, so episode 3, about 60% of the viewing will have come through streaming. But it's powered by the oxygen of publicity and that launch on linear. And you go back to the success of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office last year, over half of that viewing came through streaming. But take something like live sports. So we've got the Women's Euros on at the moment. We've got a big match next weekend, England versus Wales. Yeah. Irrespective whether we're both in it or not by then.
Yes, it could be bigger.
It could be bigger. But we anticipate that something like that, 99% of that is going to be live broadcast viewing on linear. And certain genres, daytime, sport, news, etc., they're all about live. So for us, yes, there is a change. Some of the streamers now, because of the way that subscriptions work, are actually releasing 1 episode a week. Yeah. We are launching the whole box set simultaneously, and I think there is an interesting
that's reverse
space.
Though, isn't it? Because it used to be that the streamers would launch.
Well, we learn from each other. We learn from each other, but I think one of the challenges that streaming has, they've got two kind of key challenges. One is without contracts, you can end your subscription anytime. So if you've just gone there to watch one particular show, once you've watched that, you may feel like I don't need to remain with them. So driving loyalty is key and challenging. The other thing is monetization. Subscription on its own only gets them so far. How many subscriptions do we all have these days? So they've now moved all of them into an advertising space. And they're finding that, do you know what? It's not that easy, and actually they've experimented with different models. Whether they've got it right yet is a moot point, for different streamers out there. For us, we've got this balance, and we're seeing this sort of balanced ecosystem. So for us, linear broadcast remains incredibly strong. It remains the backbone of everything we do. As a PSB, it's absolutely critical to give free access to all of this. So everything on ITVX is free. And this value exchange of you'll watch some targeted relevant adverts in return for free access to thousands of hours of programming.
And that's one thing that you have that a streamer doesn't, because because they need to have the subscriptions, they keep needing to appeal to a different audience. You can have the continuity of dramas ongoing because you've already got
there's a balance. I mean, listen, they have much deeper pockets. If they're making a drama, it's to run globally. For us, we're making something in the UK, and in many instances, we're making it also to think, right, does there have the opportunity for us to sell that on internationally? So owning IP is really key within this. I think what the streamers...
I suppose as we've seen with Channel 4, because they're moving into a
different space, and I think what we've seen is over the last decade or so, as the streamers have grown, is that the quality, they've helped to up the quality levels of some of the high-end drama. You look at the caliber of directors, actors who will go first to a TV space now, whether it be a streamer or a linear broadcast partner, to tell a story. They'll find that's a much better canvas. And I think the whole business model of that is going through a lot of change. For us, as the cost of production grows, we're having to think innovatively and creatively about how we manage that. So one of the things we've been doing now is to work with brands to get brands to fund that. So go into an ad-funded entertainment model, and that's been really successful with us as well, to just balance how you can keep making amazing content for viewers.
That's what I wanted to come on to next, so well done. Because the whole structure of commissioning and getting a programme on air has had to change, because streamers, lots and lots of money, a lot less money elsewhere. So how does a company like ITV fund these shows? Because are you having to be even more innovative and exciting as to how brands get seen, get eyeballs, I suppose?
Well, it's a virtuous circle, because we make shows that drive a big audience. We are unashamedly mainstream and popular. That's a really great place to be. Big numbers are key for us. So we make shows that lots of people want to see, that advertisers want to advertise around, that advertisers then give us money to advertise around, that helps fund the shows. And we have been spending over £1 billion on content for as long as I've worked at ITV, which is about 14 years. The way we spend it has changed over time. So we've got this balance of acquisitions now, which is greater than ever. So you're seeing amazing things that we have. We're doing partnership deals with the likes of Paramount Plus and Disney to bring those into a free-to-air space as well. But we have diversified more. Diversification has been really critical to ITV's evolution in the last 5 years. Diversifying into streaming with ITVX, and now diversifying into a number of areas, one of which is ad-funded entertainment. So we've made about 16 shows in the last year with brands. So that's brands funding the show, right? And they fund it in a way which is, compliant. It's got editorial integrity. It has really high production standards. These are across, whether it be daytime or peak, always on ITV1, so our main channel, and always going on ITVX. And what's the measure of success of this is the fact that over half of those shows have been recommissioned by the commissioners, with the brand that funded the first series staying with it. We're now on to, for instance, series 5 of M&S's Cooking with the Stars, and about half of the shows that we make are travel shows, funded by not just travel brands, but a wide range of shows in that space. And I think it's enabled us to just broaden out what entertainment looks like and help brands become part of telling that story.
And how tough is that from your side to keep the brand happy, but also have that editorial integrity of because there's always going to be a fight, isn't there?
It's a really good point you make. I mean, listen, as with most things in life, it's about managing expectations. I think it's about going into it with eyes open and explaining what is and isn't possible. But equally, we've got commissioners and production teams who are really commercially minded. And I think probably more so than I've ever seen in my time at ITV, those perceived barriers and silos between departments, between ways of working, I think are being broken down and eroded more than ever before. I think what you're seeing is us going in hand with commissioners and production companies to talk to brands in a really pragmatic way, but without us dropping any of the quality standards, because ultimately the most important person at the end of the day is the viewer, right? If the viewer doesn't watch the show, if the viewer doesn't believe it's credible, they won't come back. And we always say that to brands, you are important, but you're not more important than the viewer, because we need the viewer in order to drive our ongoing success.
And if it's seen as a hour-long advert for a brand, it's not going to last, is it?
It won't be. And I think, you'll see more and more of this across other broadcasters, across streaming partners as well. I think it'll become a bit more ubiquitous because the cost of production over the last 5 or 6 years has really grown. The kind of whole supply chain has grown. And yet, whilst we're spending over £1 billion, our budgets can't increase at the same rate. So this has enabled us to think maybe a bit more laterally than we might have done 10 years ago. And it's really refreshing.
And how do those conversations start? Is it you knowing the brand there? Is it the media agency? Is it the production company? How is it just all of those things coming together?
From anywhere. Sometimes we'll have a show that a commissioner wants to make with a production company, which we have a funding gap on, and we'll go out and talk to brands that we might think might be relevant and then adapt the show accordingly. Sometimes brands will come to us and write us a brief that we'll kind of work with them on, and then that will go out to be commissioner backed and then go out to our production companies to come back with ideas that get commissioner approval before we present them back. Either way, but the main thing is it's opened up a very different dialogue with brands. Now, this is, relatively speaking, this is a very thin amount of our advertising revenues as a whole. We're making almost £2 billion in advertising revenue. This is a relatively small amount. Probably gets disproportionate noise, but it also enables us to have just a different kind of conversation with brands, and it's exciting. It's going into a very different space. I think what I've loved about certainly my time at ITV is my job's totally different now to what it was 5-10 years ago.
Because you arrived from the agency side, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
PhD?
I was PhD, so I ran PhD up here in Manchester, and prior to that I worked in London at Carrot and PhD. And I'd come from, whether it be planning roles or press buying roles, for instance, which were great. And when I was at PhD, I was running the agency and loved that as well. But this role at ITV, I think, has evolved in lots of different ways over that time, and is why I'm still here, 14 years on.
Because when you started out there in the agency side, you started in London.
Yeah.
Presumably it was a job offer from PhD North, but what brought you up from London and what kept you in Manchester?
Well, we had our first child when I was in London. My wife didn't really want to go back to the kind of job that she had at the time, and I had a conversation with PhD about transferring up here to Manchester, and the rest is history. And I've been here almost 20 years now. I was here for about 6 years, 5-6 years in the 90s as well. But I came here to sort of build to have a family, to grow that, but also to sort of build my career. And it's accelerated beyond measure in a way that I could never have
Usually
envisaged.
It's the other way around. People go to London thinking they're going to
I
accelerate
think,
their
listen,
career.
London was brilliant at a moment in my career before we had kids. But equally, I think the opportunities I've had up here, the balance of the quality of life, the cost of living, the kind of the green space, just the opportunities here. I think for many people who have not come to live in Manchester or Leeds or wherever, but Manchester, let me be biased for a moment.
Let's say Greater Manchester.
Greater Manchester, yeah. Well, we're both South Manchester, but in Greater Manchester, I think they don't realise what they're missing. This is a fantastic place to live. It's a fantastic industry, and the opportunities here are second to none. And I think the more people who maybe consider that actually the way to accelerate their career, the way to have a brilliant life, to build a family, is to move outside of London, they will absolutely not regret it.
You can change things in Manchester because Manchester's a big old city, but it's small enough that you can know everybody in it almost.
Yeah, I think that kind of spirit of collaboration, that entrepreneurialism, but also that graft that you get. And I'm not saying these things don't happen in London, but I think sometimes it's about just getting on with it. And I think the kind of friendliness means that those barriers get broken down ever more. And I think there's a lot of things that are growing at a faster rate here. There's a great stat I saw recently about how the job opportunities are growing here faster than any other part of the country. The economy, the revenue that is generated from people working Northwest, this is the fastest growing part of the UK. And I think the only thing that potentially is holding it back is the fact that not enough people know about it and have come here to take advantage of it. So I think the future is bright.
I agree, and we were talking about it with the Greater Manchester Combined Authority last week, actually, about the creative strategy, and I was just saying, I think a few people were saying the same thing, that the north of England is unlike anywhere else in the world, because you could be filming by the seaside one day, in a mountain the next, in York in the old-fashioned bit, and then in the cityscapes the next. And you've got the post-production, you've got the pre-production, you've got the production, you've got the studios. Nowhere else has the kind of environments and the skill set
and the will. Let me illustrate it with one example. You mentioned Greater Manchester Combined Authority. So there's an initiative that ITV is involved in called Upriser, which Saatchi & Saatchi, the creative agency, launched in London. We launched ITV's second one here in partnership with Salford City Academy. So basically, the principle is that you partner with a school for 7 years as a creative business to help create opportunities where opportunities don't always exist. And these are schools with high pupil premium where maybe they're not getting quite enough opportunities and doors opening. The success that we saw from it, and just the way that it really transformed opportunities, meant that we ended up reaching out to GMCA, get off the back of the Manchester Baccalaureate, and they were really up for partnering with us. And we launched an initiative last November called Upriser Collective, and the ambition was to have an Upriser in every single one of the Greater Manchester boroughs. So we created an event over at Corrie with GMCA and Saatchi's, and backed by Andy Burnham. We've got loads of creative businesses in there, and we've now got 12 of these running around Greater Manchester, and we're now working with GMCA on how we can scale this further. That could not have happened anywhere else in the country, where you get the local authority who back an initiative from the private sector, and then you get all of the businesses who are essentially competitors to come together and get behind it. That is phenomenal.
All of these different ways that prams now can get involved in television, like Coronation Street having a co-op in there, and I think you've got a travel shop there, have you?
We did have a Hayes Travel. Yeah. So I think what's really
didn't they take you any to weird and wonderful places? Or is
it? No, sadly not. But I think what's really one of the things I've really noticed is Hayes Traveller had not been on TV for many years, and they came back on TV about, gosh, I think it's about 3-4 years ago. And the period of time that goes from someone starting advertising on TV to being able to have their shop featured in Coronation Street, which is obviously a strategic decision for them, is really short. And I think what we do is we work with ambitious business owners, marketing teams, commercial teams, media agencies, and try and just shorten those time periods to help people scale fast. I mean, we have a lot of our content now on YouTube, and we sell advertising on YouTube, which we would never have done 5 years ago. We're also working a lot more in the outcome space. And by that, I mean that if you think about why brands spend money on advertising, so if brands are spending, say, £2 billion or so on ITV, why are they doing that? Well, it's because it drives their business growth. But one of our big challenges has always been proving that. And the digital players have been brilliant at doing this over time, perhaps overclaiming a little bit as they sit very close to that final point of purchase. But what we've done is we've spent a lot of time, effort and money over the last 3 or 4 years to focus on outcomes, to be able to prove this stuff works. And that is really, really valuable to our future.
Because you've released a few kind of digital platforms so that advertisers can really see into that.
Yes, yeah, we launched one recently called Outcomes Planner, and it just means that for all of the work we've done with businesses over the last 3 or 4 years, we've aggregated that and created a really simple self-serve tool so that if an SME is thinking about going on TV for the first time, we can help them before they've spent a penny to just try and forecast what's going to be the impact of this and scenario plan it. And that, alongside with the work we've done in creative production to make ads and use Gen AI to make ads, has just really helped to remove the barriers for small businesses going on TV for the first time.
I was going to say that from the SME, is there still that situation where they think that ITV is beyond their reach in terms of advertising?
Absolutely.
Or is that changing?
No, absolutely. If you went back 20 years, I started my career at the Manchester Evening News and in regional press advertising. And in many respects, a lot of businesses would start in press or radio, and then eventually they might think we can go on TV. Where we've been for the last 10, 15 years is brands build on, when they're SMEs starting out, they start on search and social on an organic basis, then a paid basis, and they build their business, and they reach a bit of a ceiling there. And yet, I think many businesses still see the complexity, the perceived cost, the perceived hassle of going on TV, and also the lack of accountability as being the thing that's stopping them doing it. So what we've really worked hard at in the last 5 years is to take all that away, to just both demystify it, but also make it much more self-serve, make it much more frictionless, from making an ad in hours through to helping you measure the outcome of it, and also softening the costs of it as well. So proving that TV works and helping businesses scale.
Because there has been, I mean, I did advertising a while back. I don't do that as much as I used to, but there was that situation where you almost felt you had to add a zero onto the budget for a TV advert, because you knew you'd have to go through clearance, you'd have to make sure that it was compliant, you'd have to make sure that it fitted certain specs, you'd have to do this, you'd have to go through that, and the audio and suddenly from what is, aren't we using the same ad we put on Facebook? Well, yes, but we have to do this on top.
I think there is a case for saying that what I think marks TV out is that one of the things that marks TV out from maybe be things like advertising on Facebook is the fact that you have to be able to prove that everything you're saying is truthful, trustworthy, and can be evidenced. And that might feel like a pain, but actually that helps to reassure the viewer that this has passed a certain standard. Yeah. It's a signal that actually this is a brand that feels confident about itself, that it's actually chosen to advertise on TV, and the company it keeps around these amazing shows. And it's a balance for us between saying, look, actually there is a higher threshold and a higher standard for this, but also we're going to help manage that. So my creative production team, we make 1,000 ads a year for new to TV brands from as little as £300, £400, £500, and we do it on an at-cost model. And we work with many of the businesses around here in MediaCity, like Gas, and we will work to essentially help brands to scale up faster. and make sure that isn't a barrier. We're not here to compete with creative agencies who do a fantastic job, but there are a lot of very small businesses who maybe aren't at the stage yet where they need a fully fledged creative agency, and they simply need to test TV, learn from it and scale.
You should have seen the paperwork I had to do to prove King of Trainers.
Ah, right, okay, yeah. Well, yeah, I can understand that, yes, yeah. Well, it doesn't obviously work because they still use that line, don't they?
I think they've just changed it
right.
So that and using Gen AI was interesting. What you said there.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're going to see more of for smaller companies? Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So we launched a service actually out in our regional base. Actually, we did it outside of across MediaCity in our Belfast base last year. We were the first broadcaster streamer across Europe to launch a service like this. It was the first two businesses. One of them was a furniture shop in Northern Ireland. It's called Sheepbridge Interiors. We work with a travel agency in South Wales called Travel House, and it's a service for SMEs who are new to TV. And we have basically taken ads that would have taken, in the instance, say that Sheepbridge Interiors, it would have taken weeks and cost a lot of money. We did it in under 10 hours with our creative producer powering the process with the client, but using Gen AI to do it. And we have a fixed cost service now for £1,000 to do that. But alongside that, we use Gen AI to help fast track some of the production stages for the ads that we make in-house. And what that does is it frees up the time to be spent by our creatives thinking about the idea and how we can bring that to life. So it's this balance, this kind of almost this sort of almost double act or co-pilot role where the Gen AI is working hand in hand with our creatives to help them expand what they can do. It's not a replacement for, we might demonize and worry about that. It's not a replacement for, it's just helped us to do things that we could never have dreamed of doing, that would have cost SMEs thousands of pounds, been out of their reach. And importantly, we measure the effectiveness of this, and we've seen that the ads we made when we launched this last September are in the top 20% of all UK ads, and we're delivering this at a fraction of the cost, helping little furniture shops scale up.
So I've seen that people love being on TV still, even though Netflix, does that mean that there's been lots of research and figures, and there's stats down lies, and you know what I mean? How does TV advertising now compare to digital social media? Because we're seeing always seems to be a rise in terms of what people are spending on digital.
When you say compare, what do you mean?
As in, are you seeing a drop off in terms of advertising revenue in TV? Are you seeing budgets move across, or are you kind of clawing that back? Because I suppose you have a thing with ITV that social media doesn't, that you know what you're advertising around.
Yep.
So is that helping you keep that income coming in, that advertisers know it's a safe space to advertise?
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's also for the viewer. They know that all the advertising there is, trusted, authenticated, evidenced. They know that the programming there is being researched, has met a certain editorial standard, is produced independently. It's becoming more challenging. I think what's really interesting, you talked there about the likes of Netflix. Now the likes of Netflix, Amazon, and Disney are now associate members of Thinkbox, which is the trade body for TV. And we've deliberately worked in partnership with them because that helps to grow TV as a whole. They are relatively small at the moment in terms of the revenue they're making in the UK versus ITV, Channel 4 and Sky, but they're growing, and they're growing at a decent rate. And that helps to grow TV and grow the pie overall. And we sort of see a world in the future where this is all about premium TV content, all right? There's nothing really that different between the premium content on Netflix or Amazon there is on ITV or Channel 4, if we're really honest. The big difference is that for us, it's free to air, so everyone can watch it. You pay, and therefore it's excluding some people when it's on Netflix and Amazon. And equally, there's only a small proportion of those people watching on, say, Netflix who are seeing the advertising version of it. So there are some quite distinctive differences. We're also held to a kind of higher standard in terms of the editorial integrity. So some of the, say, the documentaries you might watch on a streaming platform don't have quite the editorial standards.
Yes.
But listen, you know, overall, we are competing for eyeballs and we're competing for revenue. Our big challenges are YouTube and Facebook, ultimately, because there are a huge number of SMEs who will use those to grow their business. But for us, this isn't an either or situation. I think businesses can grow effectively using the two together. And actually, there's loads of evidence that TV plus YouTube or TV plus Facebook is a really, really powerful mix when it comes to video content. They just work in slightly different ways.
And I know Channel 4 has signed a YouTube deal. I think you've got
We
one
have
as well.
Yeah.
That this is kind of knowing it's better to be with it, I suppose, and knowing that you can drive revenue from that.
There are some audiences. What we've found in the last 6 months since we started partnering with YouTube is that we're driving incremental audiences amongst different demographics to those who will watch ITV and ITVX. We're bringing in a slightly younger, slightly more male audience through our YouTube content.
Really?
And this is run the same content that you're on ITV and ITVX, just reaching a different audience. So this is a bit of an oasis within YouTube where you can buy, if you're an advertiser, you can buy advertising around those shows. And because, going back to what we said earlier about ITV Studios, we've also got a lot of the programs that we make for the likes of the BBC. So we've got the Graham Norton show there. So you can advertise around Graham Norton on our YouTube channel. And, you know, I think in the future, when we talked about ad-funded programming, I think we'll be experimenting more with ad-funded content that we make for that YouTube channel as that continues to grow. And this whole ecosystem is evolving. You know, it's bringing in different people, but I think it's in constant flux, which makes it exciting.
Do you think we're getting to a time with PSBs, and by that I mean BBC, ITV channel, that you're going to somehow have some platform together somehow? I know we've tried it before, BritBox and things like that. Just because the money's tighter and the quality has to be higher. I
think who knows what the future holds. I mean, there's just been
the only reason I asked that is because you mentioned the Graham Norton on your YouTube.
Yeah. Well, listen, we said earlier we make a lot of shows for other channels. That's one thing. Now the media bill went through not long ago, so that protects us from a PSB perspective for the next decade or so. One of the things that's increased in terms of its prominence within that is the streaming visibility, and I think that's really important for us, etc.
That's having you on the front page of
it's just making sure that as that continues to grow, it's much more visible for people who are coming into that ecosystem through something other than, say, a UView or Freeview, so that it's very, very easy to findability is really important, because if you think about, well, what does a PSB remit enable you to do? Well, it's about the prominence. It's about that button 3, for instance, and the other buttons on the EPG. But as that button 3 through a linear broadcast stream becomes maybe less important for some demographics, helping them to find our content elsewhere, because they might still be coming into that content, but through ITVX is really, really key to make sure it's easy to find.
How much is the button worth on the Amazon stick, which has Disney Plus, Netflix, ITVX on it? How much would that button be worth?
Well, when you've seen those examples of where there's a button that says Netflix, I mean that's deals that they've done on a globalized basis with the manufacturers. Now, given ITV's only in the UK, it wouldn't make sense. I think there's a couple of things that I'd say. One is actually we're experimenting now. One of the formats we released recently is a kind of lead gen advertising format. What's unique about that is every time you're watching ITVX, you're already logged in, because that's how you watch all that content free.
And they know what region you're watching from as well.
Know what region. So now if you're watching an advert on there, there'll be the opportunity to say, I want to find out more. I want to take a test drive of that car. I want to take advantage of that special offer. So you'll be able to click your remote twice for certain adverts. And by clicking that remote, it will share through a kind of consent basis, because you're going to choose that through your first click, your email address with that business. So we're going to be making more use of the remote control as we go forward. And that's something we're just in the process of launching. But you did ask me about us working together more. So one of the things, and this isn't with the BBC as such at this stage, but one of the things we announced recently is a really exciting dual partnership, which is an intent at this stage in 2 areas, and principally around the advertising side. but we announced with Channel 4 and Sky an intent to launch a platform called Universal Ads, which is big in the US. And that enables SMEs to basically come through a self-serve user interface and buy a campaign across ITV, Channel 4 and Sky in one go, click a button to get their ad made almost instantly through Gen AI, click a button to measure that campaign. And that, I think, could be a game changer for SMEs.
That's a bit like if you're buying a Facebook ad, effectively, isn't it?
It's going to use a similar intuitive interface. It's been launched about 6 months in the US, going great guns through a company over there called Comcast, who owns Sky. And we've seen the success of that, and we announced recently an intent to try and see if we can get that off the ground here. Alongside that, for agencies, which is a bread and butter of our existing advertising, is we've got a self-serve platform called Planet V, which enables you to plan, buy and optimize campaigns on our streaming platform. And we've got an intent there to try and work together to make that a shared garden for all of our inventory, all of our data going forward. So that's a separate conversation. And in a future world where all TV, linear as well, is delivered through IP, that could be the one-stop shop for everything in the TV space. As to the BBC, I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? They're in a different space.
They've got royal charters to go through at the moment.
Yeah.
They've got a long way to go yet. So that all sounds like, I mean, you say it's changed a lot over the last decade that you've been at ITV. It's no longer just this show's brought to you by, and then some 3 minutes of advertising in between. There's a lot more exciting things. I think I've forgotten the name. I think it might be called F1, the new Apple TV movie.
Yeah.
Which has pretty much got advertising, must be everywhere on that show.
Is that product placement, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I mean,
but that would have helped to fund it as well.
100%. You can see it obviously if you're on a race car, you can justify having advertising everywhere because it is, but why not sell it?
Do you know what though? What's really interesting? So F1 is a really interesting case in point because it's a case of reinvention. If you think back 20 years, F1 was all about cigarette advertising. Yes. In the same way that when we had live sport on TV, it was all about gambling advertising in that live sport. We've had to reinvent ourselves time and time again. And what you see with F1, what you see with the way that we've done stuff is ultimately, sounds like cliche, but necessity is the mother of reinvention. You have to do that in order to survive. You cannot stand still. And we will continue to reinvent ourselves. This becomes ever more, the pace of it becomes faster and faster. And the trick is to make sure that everything you promise you deliver on. And I think that is the most difficult thing. You can say a lot of things, but delivering on them is another matter.
And you've been trying to do that for 70 years now.
Trying to do it for 70. We'll do it for the next 70 as well.
So we can still, it's for those people, and we kind of wrap up because there is constantly been this, oh, nobody watches television anymore.
Yeah.
I think we're moving away from that argument because even people are watching YouTube on television.
Yeah.
So
what is TV?
Yeah.
What is TV? Let me kind of finish on one great little line that I'm going to nick from Dr. John Cooper-Clarke, because for our ITV showcase recently, which is our big set piece event for advertisers and agencies, we wanted to do something different to mark ITV's 70th year. So we commissioned Dr. John Cooper-Clarke, the Bard of Salford, who has built his career through Granada, but also ITV's been around for his entire life. So we commissioned him to write a love letter to Granada and to TV and ITV. And he came up with this brilliant line, and we can share a link, it's on ITVX, which is, where would we be without ITV? And he talks about the role that ITV plays in the heartbeat of the nation, in the way it's built little businesses to become successful, in the way that it has entertained, and the way it's done it for free, powered by advertising.
And you were one of the first big businesses to sign your lease here.
Yep.
And you're still here and still going strong?
Absolutely, yeah. We've got 650, 700 odd people across Orange Tower and Coronation Street. And it's outside of London. This is our biggest base and will continue to be forever and a day.
Thank you very much.
That's all right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching this week's This Is Media City. So remember to please like, subscribe, share and comment and tell all your friends about it. Now, this is the last one of this present series. We will be back in September with lots more interviews. But if you're missing out, we've got 20 odd shows that you can go back and watch on YouTube or subscribe on Spotify, Apple or whatever your favourite podcast platform is. And we shall see you in September. The production team are Meg Bond, Tegan Easton, Akila Hewitt and James Young.